Hi guys, I have my little sister here today and I'm going to be doing her makeup, so follow along if you like this look. I'm starting out with her eye primer. Her skin is already prepped and I'm just using the Born This Way concealer in Nude. This is her personal concealer, so I'm using directly on her skin. Anything that you see me using directly on her, it is because it is either her personal product or my personal product. So I'm just blending that out with a Moda brush, and then we will move on to this Tarte Pro palette. I'm taking that reddish brown shade and just mapping out her crease. I am blending as I go to save time for later on, but I don't usually make things super perfect. I usually wait until the end to try to pull things together and add a little bit or take a little bit away. And I am using a tapered Sigma blending brush. So now we're on to the next eye. Same thing, I like to work from one eye to the next. I never finish one eye before moving on to the other one. Now I'm going in with a very dark brown shade and I'm just hitting up the outer V of the eye. This is the part that I like to be the darkest, especially on her eye shape. She doesn't have a lot of eye space, so I like to keep it really tight to the outer corner, the outer V of the eye, and I don't bring it up too high because it can look really, really dark really fast on her because she has kind of delicate features. And I'm just blending up a little bit. I'm trying to blend the color without spreading it too high. Now I'm going back with that first reddish brown shade and I'm just going back over the crease one more time. I just want to make sure that there is enough pigment there, and I usually realize how much is enough once I get to this stage after I've placed that darkest color. In a lot of ways, I tend to work backwards when it comes to eyeshadow. And I took a clean Sigma angled brush and I just blended a little bit. Now I'm taking that same Born This Way concealer and I'm popping it on her eyelid. Sorry, I'm blocking you. I always have the model or the client look up so that I can figure out exactly where their natural eye crease is. I want to make sure that I get it in the perfect place because otherwise it will smudge. So this is a good trick to open up the eye once you've placed a lot of darker colors, and I always top this off with either a bright matte or a bright shimmer because it just adds a lot of extra dimension. Now I'm taking my Pat McGrath Astral Blitz Quad and I'm just packing this gold coppery color in the center of the lid. I'm keeping it mostly in the center because I do like brighter colors that are closer to the inner corner. So I'm just packing this on, doing a couple layers on each eye so that it is super bright. Next, with the other side of that brush, which you'll see in a second, I'm using that lighter shade, the champagne gold tone, and I'm just brightening up the inner corner with that. And I'm also topping off the very center of the top of the lid just to add even more dimension and make it a lot brighter and more fun. Pat McGrath has some of my favorite eyeshadows right now just because of how 3D and multi-dimensional her colors are. So now I'm grabbing my Too Faced bronzer and I'm just blending out her crease a little bit. I don't really like when there's a separation in between the darkest color and the crease, so I'm trying to blend those together. Now I'm taking my Hourglass highlighter in Gold Flash and I'm just brightening up the very inner corner of her eye. These are beautiful highlights and I really like them for inner corner and brow bone because they're very, very smooth and they don't have any glitter in it. The inner corner and the brow bone can tend to get cakey if the powder has too many glitters. Now I'm going ahead with my Pat McGrath eyeliner. I went ahead and I gave this to her afterwards because if you know makeup hygiene, you know that you cannot use these products more than once on clients. So I'm just drawing a straight black line, and it is usually best to keep the liner thicker on the outer corner. And now we're doing the lower lash line just with that red color. I'm just popping a little bit of this in her lower lash line. She has a hard time with it, so I'm using a stick pencil as well. This is the Nude Sticks in Burnish. And if you have a client who has a hard time with something on the lower lash line, then use a cream. It's a lot easier and it stays longer. Now I'm using her mascara. This is a Tarte mascara. I'm not sure which one it is, but I'm just popping a little mascara on to prep her for lashes. And it comes up pretty quick off camera, so I will tell you that I use these red cherries in style 51. And now they're on and we're moving on, and I'm highlighting underneath her base. I'm doing this because she has a bit of a sunburn and I'm going to airbrush her, so to keep contact minimal with her skin, I'm just highlighting first just to make sure there's no peeling once the foundation is on. I don't like it once the foundation's set and then things are being smudged on top of it if the client has skin that is peeling or red. So this is the Temp 2 AirPod Pro. I'm using the S&B Airbrush foundation in the shade 3. This is one of my favorite foundation formulas, and it is great for sunburns, people with acne and rosacea, any skin that is compromised but needs to be made up. It's amazing because you don't further irritate the skin by touching it and blending with a brush or sponge. You work in little circles while you're using this, and I tend to do 2 or 3 layers of this depending on how full I want the coverage. You can also spot conceal by holding the trigger and hovering over one specific area like I am now. She's got a lot of redness right here in her cheek, so I'm just hovering a little bit longer to get extra coverage. Now I'm grabbing her concealer again. That's the Born This Way concealer in the shade Nude, and just going right underneath her eye just to brighten everything up. And I'm blending out just with a flat concealer brush, and I blend out only one side on camera because it takes quite a long time to blend correctly, believe it or not. Now I'm getting my Dior Backstage foundation in 4N, and I'm going to contour her with this. This is one of my favorite products that I've showed in the past to contour and or bronze. And of course I'm doing the nose, and I'm sorry I'm blocking you. I didn't really realize this whole video. So I'm drawing 2 parallel lines, and I do take it all the way down the nose and all the way up towards the eyebrows. Now I'm blending out with this Sigma synthetic brush. I don't really know the name. I think it's a tapered something brush. And I'm blending right on top of the contour. I try to keep the contour exactly where I placed it initially. I try to place everything with intention and blend with intention. I don't just smack it on and then start blending and hope it turns out right. If you place it in the right area first, then your blend is going to come out a lot better, and your cheekbones will be lifted instead of brought down like if you put it too low. And now we're blending out this nose contour with a clean brush. I always use a clean small brush around the nose. A regular brush would be just too big and it would spread the color everywhere. And I'm taking a second clean brush and just pressing that contour into the nose, and now I'm highlighting just a little bit down the center, and I like to blend with my finger because you have to be really careful when you contour the nose. The makeup can smudge and the lines can blur really quickly if you're not very careful. And I'm just stamping over it with a beauty blender, and now look, it looks like she got a nose job. No, just kidding. Not like she needs one, but it does look really good. And I really have a lot of fun doing these nose contours. I don't know why. So now we're just baking her under eye with this Ciate London powder. This is one of my favorite powders. I got it in my BoxyCharm, and I really like it for baking because it is very, very fine. So I'm going right underneath the eye and also on the highlights outside of the nose contour. You got to be careful not to get it too much on the contour. And also doing the forehead and chin, just the T-zone for her because she's a more dry skin type and she has really good facial structure, so I like to highlight that with the powder underneath the contour. And now, yeah, this is just the Too Faced bronzer. I'm just using a little bit of this to give her a little bit more of a bronzy look, even though we did do so much with that Dior bronzer. And now we're moving on. We're using the $1 Billion Brows. This is a microblading pen, and I'm just adding a little bit to the outer brow, the outer tail of her eyebrow. She already has a good amount of eyebrows, and she also doesn't like it when it's too dark and too made up. So I'm just adding a few hair strokes. This is a really good concept, this pencil, but it doesn't quite work that well. Dries out really, really quickly. I wouldn't recommend buying it at all. And I'm dusting off that bake. It's been here for a few minutes. We had a little break. And now we're going in with the contour shade in Fawn, I believe, from the Anastasia palette. And I'm just swiping that on, and now I'm blending out. I'm using such a small amount that I wasn't really careful with where I placed it. I just wanted to intensify her contour a little tiny bit more. I'm taking a little bit down the forehead, and now I'm going in with my Benefit blush. This is the shade called Dallas. It's one of my favorite blushes for more of a sun-kissed look, so I'm using a little bit of this, and I'm topping it off with the Hourglass blush in Diffused Heat. This is another one of my favorites, and they look beautiful when they're layered. This is a Wet n Wild highlighter. I have no idea the name because I took the packaging off, but it's a loose powder and it's kind of in a rosy pinky shade, and I actually really like this. I usually use it on the body, but she has really smooth skin, so she can actually afford to use it on her cheekbones. It's not for everyone. If you have oily skin or textured skin, I wouldn't recommend it, but it's really great for dry skin. I always apply highlights with tiny brushes just so I can get it exactly where I want. Now we're going in with the Gerard Cosmetics lip pencil in the color Share. This is my absolute favorite lip liner. I use this one on myself all the time, and I'm just lining her lip. I'm overlining a little bit and trying to follow her natural shape at the same time. Now I'm going to grab a MAC Cosmetics lipstick and I'm going to highlight the lip. I like to use quite a contrast between the lip liner and the lipstick color. So you'll see this here in a second. It's the MAC lipstick called Bosom Friend, and I'm popping that in the center of the lip, and I'm going to blend the two shades together. Like I said, when you choose a really light lipstick with a lip liner that is 2 to 3 or even 4 shades darker than the skin tone, it adds a lot of volume to the lips. It's like lip filler with lipstick. On top of this lipstick, I am going to add a gloss. I'm using this Hourglass gloss. I believe it's in the color Fortune, but I can't quite remember. So I'm just adding a little bit of this just to give a little bit more color to the lips so that she doesn't look like she just came out of the 90s. We're trying to keep it current over here. And this is actually the last step to this makeup look, besides any little final touches that we did. And so take a look. This is it. Let me know how you like it. If you do, if you don't, let me know in the comments below. I'm just brushing off any excess powder, and we'll see you for the next one. Mwah.